My name is Edward Peck. I was born in Victoria. I served as a private soldier and at the end of the war was a corporal. My unit was the 1st Battalion Canadian Scottish Regiment, the 7th Brigade, the 3rd Division of the Canadian Army. The Canadians certainly had a reputation for going where it was very difficult and did frequently died. The whole point of joining up was to go to fight. And I trained in Canada for a year and a half and I eventually got over. The only time I ever asked my father to do anything for me, because he wasn't keen on me being in the Army in the first place. I guess he felt he'd done it all. In any event, I did. I said, please get me out of here. I want to go to fight. The Minister of National Defense, Ralston, was a friend of his. So he wrote to Ralston and made the request. So the colonel marched me in front of him, had me marched in front of him. Say, did you use any influence in this matter, Peck? I said, certainly not, sir. When I first landed in France, I was almost on my own as a reinforcement, and I had to find my headquarters, so I just set out on foot. The first time I was under fire, actually, I was firing on somebody else. As I got down to the area where the stronghold and the pillboxes were, a German came out on the roof, gazing around, having his morning coffee or something. So I bounced one off him. I thought, I can't kill that guy. I bounced one off the roof and he rapidly disappeared. The Battle of Normandy was well underway when I arrived. Within a couple of weeks, I got ill. So after a week or so, I said, the hell with this, and I just walked out. And then went and found my regiment. It wasn't long after that we were sent up the coast to bypass Dunkirk and Boulogne and finally get to Calais in September. Calais, the outskirts are about 800-900 feet high, I guess, in hills. And we were there waiting for the order to attack. And the night before the attack, they sent in British and Canadian bombers. And you could see them coming, and you could also see the tracer from the German anti-aircraft going out. And I saw no less than 7 bombers come down, one after the other, which was pretty frightening, to say the least. We saw a number of tanks, what we thought were tanks, were lined up next to the canal. Well, they weren't tanks, they were flamethrowers. They were what they called crocodiles, which were flamethrowers mounted on tanks. And by this time, the flamethrowers were not the blowtorch type. This was heavy fuel, which was fired out of like a gun nozzle, and it burned around the edges. And when it hit, woof. And I got up out of what was kind of a trench, which was unusual there. And as I got up, I got hit. And ran back to a kind of barricade where our troops were. And a sergeant from Victoria, who's no longer with us, saw me coming. And he saw I couldn't get over because I had one hand, so he reached over, grabbed me by the belt, and over the top. That was the end of the war for me. Oh yes, oh yeah. We all did.